Hey, this is Chugg, and in this video we're going to be looking at what to practice. So there's a lot of information out there on how to practice, how to get good, what sorts of drills you should do, for how long, with what intensity, and that's all, that's very useful stuff, but I think it's even more important to ask the question of what to practice. Where do you direct that effort? You want to be efficient. You don't want to be shooting for something that is compound and built off of multiple factors that are a little bit shaky that you should probably understand and work on first before attempting the higher level thing. Something like some combination rocket jump or some super cool strategic play that you want to break out. There's no point in deducing some cool opening strat if you don't know how to move properly. Like you need movement to be able to execute that kind of thing. So in order to help us, I think it's important to understand the difference between strategic, um, tactical, and mechanical skills and elements. So if you already know the difference of that, you can probably skip ahead a little bit. But to briefly say it, mechanical components is everything to do with you and nothing to do with your opponent. So this is stuff like movement, crosshair control, timing is something that I consider to be mechanical. It's like more arguable because it's not a hands-on thing, but it is your eyes do a certain job, your brain stores the information, your opponent has nothing to do with this. So I treat it as a mechanical thing that can be improved. Other things like sound recognition, if I'm here and I hear a jump pad, that mechanical reflex of recognizing what that means can be improved. So mechanics in general terms is that. Tactics, this can be broadly generalized to short-term interactions with your opponent. So anything to do with fighting I consider tactical. This is obviously your weapon choice, your placement of certain shots, your use of cover, your dodging. Everything related to battle skills is tactical. There are other things as well when it comes to using a sound to bait your opponent or to hide in a particular position because you know they want to come here. Like tactical things to outplay your opponent in the short term. Strategic is best generalized as unforced positioning. So when my opponent is at Mega and I'm over here, I've got a choice. I've got, let's say I just took Heavy, I know that they're waiting here. I have a lot of potential in this moment, and the decisions that I make, the information that is coming in, that influences where I go. Do I sit here with the nail gun, ready to punish this? Do I instead come back here, wait for the rail? Am I timing like how long it would take my opponent to go different ways? This is all strategic, unforced positioning. That's I'm very happy with that definition. In other games and other skills, other sports, these are not 100% consistent, but when it comes to Quake, I think these are pretty reasonable definitions. So just to say, why do we do this? Why should we categorize these skills in this way? Because mechanical skill is how you execute tactics. Tactical execution is how you implement strategy. So if you want to improve at something tactical, you have to make sure your mechanics are strong enough. If you want to implement a strategy, you want to make sure that your tactical control and knowledge and reflexes are up to par. Otherwise, it's, I think, fruitless to be going for things on shaky ground. So we shall now do a very awkward cut to Paint. MS Paint, welcome. I'll just mute Quake. So, strategic, tactical, mechanical. And this shape denotes their importance. So mechanical is the base, the foundation. This is where I believe you need to put, I think this should be your strongest skill. If you say that you're more a strategic player and more tactics based and mechanically a bit weak, this is absolutely where you should put your attention. If you say that you're a strategic player, your tactics are not that strong, but your mechanics feel pretty good, then yeah, your tactics should be the next thing that you focus on. So when it comes to weakness, you want your weakness to be strategic. You want to make sure that these are as strong as possible. And to me, that's what makes a good player, is someone who has strong mechanics, strong tactical skills, and some element of strategic ideas. This doesn't have to be super strong to be a good player. Um, a player with strong mechanics and tactics can floor me if they're strategically not inept, but if the strategic element is about a 5 out of 10, and these are like tens, there's very little that I can do. But if this is a little bit weaker, if these are eights and this is a 3, I reckon I can take him down because strategically, that is how I sort of see myself. I'm very resource based, macro based, understanding when stuff is spawning and taking positioning so that I win that stuff. And then I pick up more stuff than my opponent, so I'm more likely to win the fights. My mechanics and tactical ability is a little bit weaker. Um, than my contemporary opponents, and I think that's due to my strategic advantage pulling me ahead slightly. So I want you to look at these and think about what kind of a player you are, where you stand. If you're a gold player, you feel like you hit a lot, you probably think that strategy is your main weakness. I would think that you should also be careful of your tactical weakness because once you start playing against diamond players, you'll just overextend into traps and you'll fall into their tactical strengths and you'll be like, oh well, I should be hitting more damage and they're picking up items. It's a combination of strategic and tactical elements that will defeat a mechanical player. As I said for myself, I see myself more as a strategic guy. Let's say this is a 6 out of like if 10 is rougher, let's say this is a 6 for me. Tactically, I think I'm more like a 5, and mechanically, in terms of movement, in terms of crosshair control, maybe that's a 6 or a 7. Not not top level by any means, but um, definitely comparable to these other two elements. We also understand that we're biased. If I say that my strategic understanding is a 5, that doesn't really mean that I'm 5 out of 10. I could be 7 out of 10. But because I'm focused on what I don't understand, because I'm interacting with like, oh, I should be using this information. I should be, if I'm, it's like a Dunning-Kruger effect. If I'm aware of the stuff that I don't know, that could be a sign that I'm actually quite good. Um, I'm sure that Rafa would say his strategic game is like an 8 or a 9. Mainly because, and not a 10. He wouldn't say his strategic game is a 10. Compared to other players, maybe he would make that argument, but I think he's familiar. He's understanding of the stuff that he could be using that he doesn't, that he's not quite equipped mentally to do yet. He's focused on other areas. Um, that's not a slight against Rafa at all. That's a comment on what it is to be a stronger player. You're more aware of the stuff that you don't know. All right, so I've done a little bit of list making. So mechanically, crosshair control, absolutely key. Like you need this to be able to impart damage to your opponent. If they're not taking damage, they're not going to die. So absolutely the foundation of tactical and strategic players as well. Movement control, yes, your keyboard inputs and how that coordinates with your mouse to generate speed, how you clip around corners and reduce the distance that you have to travel, the precision with which you land so that you can continue your jumping sequence. Being efficient and fast is all it is what it takes to have good positioning. If you have this really strong positional mind, but you can't reach the positions in time, it's no good. You need movement control. Same as it goes with tactical plays. You need to have good control over this. Your key bindings and config. This may be a little bit surprising, but I mean this is still how you interact with the game. This is where your fingers are positioned. If you have fingers, don't mean to be. There are players who are quite strong who don't have fingers, so play with their feet or something. Key bindings and config. Like this is how you send your commands to the character for what it to do. And these can either help you, be neutral, or hinder you. So having this as a smooth area is important. I'm not saying you should delete your config and look at some strong player and be like, okay, I should be copying his config. Like, don't do that. But just look at your config and just ask, is this easy to do? Is it easy for me to hit my ability key while I'm moving? Can I pull out the rocket or the railgun at short notice without compromising my movement, etc.? Sound recognition. I take this as mechanical. Like you hear an ammo box pick up. How quickly do you recognize what that sound is where it's coming from and what that means for your opponent's decision making. Like, you can be slow at this or you can be fast, and I see this as a skill that you can refine. Tracking an enemy stack, like this seems like probably this is more, for a mechanical skill, this is again more brain stuff. But you're hitting the damage. You can estimate what their stack is, do the maths in your head. Like, okay, he's 100 on 100. I've hit a rail, so he's got like 110 health total. How that's distributed, I don't really know. His armor, he took 60 armor damage, so it's like 40. So it's like 40 and 70. Or 70 and 40, I should say. Like, I can do that over time. But if this was a skill that I refined, this could be much faster. And when it comes to the start of a game, a player is going to get a major item. They're going to spawn with 125 decaying health. This is predictable stuff. When you interact with someone, they're going to leave, and you're going to be able to know, did they go and pick up armor? Did they go? Is there health bubbles nearby they could go for? A cheat that I have with this in particular is that I just assume my opponent has 100 health for the most part. If I disengage my opponent, I just assume they have 100 health and just track their armor because it's so much easier to understand. There's only two or maybe three spots to get armor on a map. Well, actually, Covenant has 4. So you get the small armors that give 50 and the heavy gives 100. If you can just keep that, if you're just concentrating on that one number, it's easier to do. Tactical. So this is all battle skill related. This is in-fight movements and positioning, like how you're going to stand, at what range, ability and weapon, like what gun do you use, when do you use your ability, can you use your ranger orb to dodge a rocket? That's incredibly important. Tactical, recognizing an opportunity to bait an item, to let your to know that your opponent can see the mega that you're standing next to, and they're going to get tempted and they'll step into it. You'll hear them coming. You'll be able to place the rocket and do all this cool stuff. That's a recognition of a tactical play. Which corners and angles do you hold? Because you recognize, he's going to path there because he wants that weapon. Like, so I should throw this spam down, or I should watch with the railgun. Like, tactical, short-term engagements. Strategic. As I said, unforced positioning. This is where you've got the opportunity to decide, where do I want to position? How do I want to set myself up to give myself the best tactical opportunity? What champion did I choose? What do they have? What does that mean for what's their stack? What are they capable of in terms of their passive movement ability or their active ability? What opening do I want to choose? What weapon do I grab? What major item do I get? How do I use that? I have a weapon imbalance. I have the railgun, he doesn't. What part of the map should I be on to maximize the chance of me either hitting a shot or just pressuring my opponent, making him feel restricted so that forces his movement elsewhere? How do I convert control? Like, once I've won control, if I've done some cool, item timer manipulation, I've delayed my major item, and then I've played for position on his item and he hasn't realized it, and then I take both. Great, I've got item control, but how do I convert that? What position should I take with what weapon? What movement should I be restricting of my opponent? Like, where should I wait? All these things, strategic. So I hope that you can look at this and be like, okay, this is complicated. This is not a complete list. This is just what I would come up with in an afternoon. And there's, the game is deeper than this. But in terms of mechanics, this is where I think most of your attention should be. Like, recognize a weakness in this area. If you could say, okay, look, I can't track enemy stacks at all. All right, it's a mechanical weakness. Like, this is something to work on. If you can get good at this, this makes your ability usage better. This makes baiting and trapping better because, he really needs that armor, so I can bait it. He, corners and angles, I know that I can, we both traded, but I can pull back and hold for another shot because it will kill him. Engaging, that's not as related, but you can see that it flows up. Sound recognition. Again, everything, it flows up. So I hope that this is enlightening a bit, and feel free to add to this list. To a list of any of the categories, and my recommendation is that you just make an assessment of who you are as a strategic player, tactical player, mechanical player. Just how do you feel about these different areas? Then looking at these lists, try and identify, tactically I feel a bit weak. It's my in-fight movements. I just seem to take all the damage in the world and I'm not really holding corners and angles. Like I do it sometimes, but not with the frequency that my opponents do, and my engages are always I'm always like when I go to engage jump at them, they hit me with the rail. They peak rail me every time, or they hold me back with LG, and I just take so much damage. Like get a sense for where you are with all of these, and then try to assign blame to one of these weaknesses. And okay, once you okay, holding angles and corners. Is there anything down here that will help me? Well, sound recognition that could help. Um, Keeping timing on the items will help me to know which corners and angles to hold. Yeah, so maybe I should work on these two, and then work on this. So I hope this provides a reasonable guide and roadmap. And again, this doesn't just apply to Quake. I recently got access to a pool table. My father purchased one. He is a strong, this is a tangent. He's a strong player. Back in the 80s and 90s, he played a lot and won quite a number of tournaments. And since he's had it, which was about, it's been a month now, just 30 days. I've defeated him 5 or 6 times, and he's defeated me 20 to 30 times. Sorry, no, more like 30 times. Um, but I came in as a new player. I understand, hey, mechanics, like, it's my stance that matters. It's my control over the cue. I need to be dead straight. I need to be setting myself up. I need to be lining the shot perfectly. I need to be delivering the cue in a straight line consistently. This is all I focused on, my mechanics. He's got a great strategic mind for recognizing where the balls can go and controlling the white. And I understand this is a lot for some of you, but mechanically, he's weaker. He's had 20 years away from the game basically, so his left hand bridging isn't so strong. His cueing with the right hand, his elbow wasn't quite high enough to be straight, to be perpendicular to the floor and give him a dead straight angle. So he misses a lot of shots because his mechanics are not quite right. And I've tried to like prod him in the right direction, but he's very very prideful, and he's not going to take pool lessons from a guy that watched a couple of internet videos for a few weeks, um, when he's got years of experience, etc. But that's fine. I'll just have to get stronger, beat him, and then he'll just learn through through the results that hey, he's done something, he's doing something, he's thinking about something right. I should listen to him, etc. So yeah, this applies to everything: mechanical, tactical, strategic. I hope this was helpful, and I'll see you later.